what is the reality of somebody right now who has a job and wants to be making more money and wants to be able to pay their bills? Everything is more expensive.
Yes.
They're making less money now than they were a year ago because of inflation. Wages are not keeping up with inflation. So people, yeah, they may be working, but they're moving in the wrong direction in terms of their earning power and their economic security relative to the beginning of the Biden administration. It's going in the wrong direction, which is why all the polls show this. And they just don't have a good answer for it, Clay, because the real answer is we got idiots in charge who don't know what they're doing. I've never heard this one before, Clay. This was a new one. Not only trying to tell us we're not in a recession, but are we not even in a pre-recession? Or what about a pre-recession? We're not even in the...
Wouldn't we have to always be in a pre-recession if we're not in a recession?
I would think so, because it wouldn't... what would the alternative be, right?
It seems like the pre-recession would be the opposite of the recession, right?
Yeah. I mean, she's telling us we're not even in a quasi-recession or a semi-recession. No, we're actually in... We're going to start using the R word a lot more, and we will get to...
She is uniquely incompetent as a White House press secretary, which is quite an indictment of the Biden entire administration in general, that she could stand out for her incompetence at this job.
I think her biggest asset up there at the podium in some ways is that she seems so confused and inept a lot of the time that people don't even really, it's not like some of the, Jen Psaki was snarky, right? Other White House press secretaries would throw down a little bit. People are just like, they don't want to be mean. I mean, I really think some of the White House press corps feel like it's not fair. She's new. She doesn't know what she's doing. It's like first day on the job every day. There's the redefining of recession out of existence. And can we even, I was thinking about this yesterday, can we even be surprised by this when you think about how men can get pregnant is now the mantra?
Yeah.
So if they're going to say men can get pregnant, I think they can also just change the definition of changing the definition of recession is easy compared to that one. That doesn't mean we have to go along with it, and of course we won't. But this was particularly fun. KJP, Karine Jean-Pierre, she is out there saying not only are we not in a recession, we are not even in, and I will say, I had never, to be fair, I'd never even heard this term before. We're not even in a pre-recession.
The president said today that we're not going to be in a recession. Why is he so confident of that?
So if you look at the economic indicators, as the president was laying out, if you look at the labor market, right now we are seeing historic unemployment. If you look at low unemployment at 3.6, if you look at the average amount of jobs that have been created, it's about 400 per month. Those indicators do not show that we are in a recession or even a pre-recession.
Not even in a pre-recession.
Did she say we're creating 400 jobs a month?
Yes.
Also, I mean, come on.
It's more like 350 if we're going to be fair.
She doesn't have any clue what she's actually saying.
Yeah, 400,000 jobs, Clay.
Her.
400 jobs, all the same thing. It doesn't matter.
I'm betting that she jotted down 400, but she's so clueless that she didn't see the K or didn't come across on her notes. And again, that's a lie, and we've been on this for a while. All of the jobs, and I'm using quotation marks here, people watching the video on YouTube can see this, all of the jobs that we've created, Buck, are just jobs that people already had that they were forced to not be able to have. When suddenly we went to 20% employment because we shut down the country, we're still basically not back to where we were then.
And also, if you look at what's going on for the people who are in jobs, right? What is the reality right now? So they're like, look at how low the unemployment rate is. A very low labor force participation, as you and I have been talking about for weeks. Weird problem of inability to staff up, like the airlines, for example. That's a lot of economic dislocations occurring right now. But even beyond that, what is the reality of somebody right now who has a job and wants to be making more money and wants to be able to pay their bills. Everything is more expensive.
Yes.
They're making less money now than they were a year ago because of inflation. Wages are not keeping up with inflation. So people, yeah, they may be working, but they're moving in the wrong direction in terms of their earning power and their economic security relative to the beginning of the Biden administration. It's going in the wrong direction, which is why all the polls show this. And they just don't have a good answer for it, Clay, because the real answer is we got idiots in charge who don't know what they're doing.
You asked me yesterday a question, Buck, that I don't think I answered. You said, if Joe Biden was going to step down, when would he do it? Something along those lines. People can go check the transcripts to know for sure. But we talked about it, kind of hinted at it, and then we didn't dive into the answer. And my answer is, I think Joe Biden will come February of next year. So not very long from now. I think Joe Biden will announce that he is not running for re-election in 2024. And there are a bunch of different reasons why I believe that will occur. But I saw this in the Washington Post. It's an opinion piece, but the fact that the Washington Post even published it is indicative of the direction we are going. And the headline is, "Quit, Joe, quit. Biden could save the midterms with a one-term pledge." This is a guy named Steven Eisenberg wrote this. And here's his opening paragraph, Buck. "President Biden should announce now he won't run for re-election in 2024. He should not ask the Democratic Party or the nation to assume the risk of a second four-year term that would begin after he reached the age of 82. And he says this would then make the midterm elections about something other than Joe Biden being an awful president." And I'm paraphrasing the awful president part. I think this is significant because, to my mind, you may have seen one. I haven't seen the Democrat apparatus of CNN, the Washington Post, the New York Times, or MSNBC actually feature an article like this yet. And so the fact that that was in the Washington Post and received some substantial publicity, to me, is an indication that the apparatus continues to move against Joe Biden. You find it significant that to me, this is the first time we've seen one of those places publish an argument like this.
So my belief, and I don't pretend to have it set in stone here what's going to happen. I don't think anybody knows. I don't even think Joe Biden knows what's going to happen. My belief in all this is they really want to see who the Republican is looking to be. As in, does Trump announce? When does he announce? And then Democrats want to, because they'll be able, I think, they'll be able to get a sense of what the reaction to that is right away. And they'll start looking at polls and how does Biden match up against Trump. I do believe that if Trump announces and they start seeing some change in sentiment, the Democrats, the DNC believes that that is, even with the economy where it is and everything else, in any way a favorable matchup for Joe Biden, or could become one, because we're getting to the nowhere to go but up part of the Biden presidency in a lot of people's minds, I think, at least economically speaking. I believe the Democrats think that Joe Biden is their best matchup against Trump. I don't think they believe that Joe Biden is their best matchup against another GOP contender. And there are a handful, obviously Ron DeSantis top of the list, but there are a handful of non-Trump possibilities. So that's why I think you can't really know until Trump announces and they see they want to see what that reaction is. So let's say Biden was going to announce in February. They're going to just be looking and polling and, are people exhausted with all the January 6th stuff and everything else or not? Maybe Trump's ahead by 4 or 5 points, in which case Biden's going to step down.
I think that's what's going to happen. I think Trump by February. So here's why I think Biden announces he's not going to run in February. And I've got a poll here from New Hampshire that is pretty interesting associated with this too, Buck. But if we get what we expect, which is a red wave of sorts in November, then it goes into Thanksgiving, then it goes into Christmas, holiday season. Everybody kind of pauses. And I think that's when Biden effectively gets forced out. And then he tries to argue that he could still run again in January. By February, he recognizes that that's not going to happen, announces that he's going to step down. And then you have a full 2023 run-up where Democrats can decide who their nominee is. Reason why I bring this up, I was looking, this poll came out from New Hampshire, and I know we're a long way from 2024 primaries. Although, by the time we get to January, we're only going to be like a year out from when the New Hampshire primary will be taking place. Mayor Pete right now is the top choice in New Hampshire among Democrat primary voters. Joe Biden is second. I think a lot of people out there will find this intriguing. Then Elizabeth Warren, she's basically next door in Massachusetts. Gavin Newsom, kind of come out of nowhere. He's the fourth choice right now at 10%. Amy Klobuchar, she's at 9%, already ran before. I find it almost impossible to believe she would be the nominee. Bernie Sanders at 8%. Kamala Harris is all the way down in, what is this, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th place at 6% of the vote in New Hampshire. Now, if you remember, Joe Biden got wrecked in New Hampshire, and then James Clyburn just came out in South Carolina and said Biden is the guy, and Biden basically was the nominee after that. So maybe that's what happens again. James Clyburn decides who's going to run and who's going to be the nominee. But I thought that was intriguing that the VP is in 7th place right now in New Hampshire.
I would want to see, to your point about South Carolina, that to me would be a better indicator of who is likely to be who is the heir apparent essentially to the Democrat throne, such as it is at this point. I think that Biden I think he wants a way out. I don't believe he thinks this is going to get any better for him. And so if there's a pathway, he'll take it. Meaning if there's a way that he gets to hand the baton off and look like the elder statesman, that he would do it. But I also, I think that there is still a belief in Democrat circles that Joe Biden is a strong matchup for Donald Trump. I think they really believe that. And so until that plays out, there's multiple pathways here that have to be determined before we know what the real matchup will end up being. And look, it also is going to make a big difference whether Republicans, even if they have a 51 vote majority in the Senate, I mean, what if you're Joe Biden? What do you want to stick around for at that point, right? You want to do another 4 years?
He's a lame duck. He's a lame duck. And the political hit, if you really want to pay attention to whether or not the political hit's coming down, if Hunter Biden gets charged with crimes, that's effectively the Democrats saying, Joe Biden, we are done with you. And I think, Buck, that might happen in the next month.
Look at you with the big sweeping declarations.
They're going to try to avoid charges in October for sure. And they could charge him after the midterms, which is a possibility. But if they're going to do it, I feel like it needs to come out sometime in August because you still have a couple of months before the midterms after that. That's my theory anyway.
I don't know. I don't know if they really care all that much about it. I think at some level, the people that are making that decision realize there's no good time to charge the president's son with possible felonies. And again, if we think it's going to be misdemeanors and he pays fines, which is what I think at worst will be the reality of it, then Joe Biden will actually hold this up as, see, I didn't step in and try to mess with the wheels of justice. I'm not like that evil Trump guy with January 6th and all of his, slimy pardons at the end of his presidency. I let the wheels of justice go. And that's why Hunter gets off with the slap on. The slap on the wrist situation is actually a benefit because then it puts us all to bed, right? Then all of a sudden
it cleans the
deck.
Then
it cleans the deck, and then Joe Biden gets to say, see, even when my own son's in jeopardy, I don't step in.
Well, and that would be a sign that he's going to run again in 2024. I think they're going to throw Hunter to the wolves, and that allows them to go after Trump even more aggressively.